Alright y'all, today we're talking about gun advice that sounds smart but is actually dumb. You've heard this stuff everywhere, at the range, in YouTube comments, on forums where everyone's an expert and nobody's ever wrong. It gets repeated so much that people just accept it as gospel truth, but it ain't. It's bad advice wearing a smart guy costume, and it's probably costing you money, frustration, or progress, and I'm tired of seeing people fall for it. In this video, we're breaking down why this advice is terrible and what you should actually do instead, so let's ride. Just train more is a universal fix-all excuse that gun people love to throw around, and it's the laziest advice possible. Oh yes, the universal fix. Blame the shooter, never the object. It's like tech support telling you to restart your computer when the problem is that your computer's on fire. I'll admit that training is important. Obviously, you should practice, you should build skills, you should work on fundamentals. My daughter didn't become a good shot by magic. She practiced, but here's what training won't fix: bad ergonomics, excessive recoil, or a gun you absolutely hate shooting. If you buy a gun with a trigger that feels like pulling a rusty lever attached to a cinder block, telling you to just train more is like telling someone with a broken bike to just pedal harder. The problem ain't you, it's the equipment. I see this all the time with new shooters. They buy some snappy little micro compact because the internet said it's the best carry gun, then they can't hit anything because the sight radius is tiny and the recoil is brutal. Then when they ask for help, some genius at the range goes, "Just train more, bro." Wrong. They need a gun that fits their hand, has manageable recoil, and doesn't punish them for being a beginner. Training matters, of course it does. But so does having the right tool for the job. If your gun sucks, training isn't going to magically make it better. Just going to make you better at shooting a gun that sucks, which is like getting really good at driving a car with 3 wheels. Technically, it's impressive, but why are you doing that to yourself? Sometimes the solution is to get a different gun that actually works for you, instead of just forcing yourself to suffer with something terrible. Just train more is what people say when they maybe don't want to admit that maybe, just maybe, you bought the wrong gun. Caliber doesn't matter is advice that's only given by people who already picked the caliber they like and now want to act superior about it. It's spoken exclusively by people who already made their choice and now just want to justify it to everybody else while sounding philosophical. Here's the truth. Caliber does matter within reason. Yes, shot placement is king, obviously. A 22 in the right spot beats a 45 in the wrong spot. I'm not arguing that, but recoil, capacity, and shootability still matter. A 9mm is easier to control than a 45 ACP, which means faster follow-up shots. That's just physics. A 380 is softer shooting than a 9mm, which might make it better for someone with hand strength issues. And a 44 Magnum has way more recoil than a 357, which affects how often you're gonna actually practice with the dang thing. Caliber affects your ability to shoot accurately, quietly, and confidently. Pretending it doesn't matter is just intellectual posturing. It's like people trying to sound smart at the expense of being helpful. The folks who say caliber doesn't matter are usually the ones who carry 9mm and want to feel smug about it, or the old school guys who carry 45 ACP and want to dismiss everyone else as tactical LARPers. But for someone actually choosing a gun, caliber matters. You need to pick something you can control, something with enough capacity for your needs, something you'll actually practice with. If you hate shooting 40 Smith & Wesson because it's snappy and unpleasant, guess what? Caliber freaking matters. If you can't afford to practice with 45 ACP because the ammo costs more than your lunch, caliber matters. Stop pretending it doesn't just so you can sound wise on the internet. It matters within reason, and dismissing it entirely is bad advice that helps exactly nobody. If the military uses it, it must be good. Is advice that sounds smart till you remember that the military adoption prioritizes durability, logistics, and lowest bidder contracts, not civilian comfort or performance. Congrats, you optimized your range toy for desert warfare in a country you ain't ever gonna visit. The military picks guns based on criteria that have nothing to do with what matters to you. They need guns that can survive being dropped from helicopters, dragged through sand, ran over by a Humvee, and still function after zero maintenance for 6 months. They need guns that are easy to train 18-year-old recruits on in 2 weeks. They need guns that can be mass-produced cheaply by thousands and have parts availability worldwide. You know what they don't care about? Whether the trigger feels good, whether the ergonomics are comfortable, whether it's fun to shoot at your local indoor range on a Tuesday night, whether it fits in your hand or makes you look cool in front of your buddies. The M9 Beretta was the U.S. military sidearm for decades. It is a fine gun, but it's heavy, bulky, and now there are more modern options for civilians available. The SCAR is used by Special Forces, and it's awesome. It's also $3,500 in his replacement parts that cost more than some people's entire gun collections. You don't need those unless you're kicking indoors in the Middle East, and you're probably not. You're shooting paper targets at a public range while wondering if you can get Taco Bell on the way home. Military adoption means a gun meets a military's needs, not your needs. Stop using it as the ultimate endorsement. Start thinking about what you actually need from a gun. You're not deploying, act accordingly. You'll grow into it is code for buy something above your skill level and suffer till you figure it out. It is terrible advice. Nothing helps beginners like suffering now for a skill you might earn later if you don't quit first. This advice gets thrown around constantly, especially to new shooters. Oh, that gun's too advanced for you? Well, just buy it anyway. You'll grow into it. No. You'll develop bad habits, get frustrated, and possibly quit the hobby entirely because you're fighting your equipment instead of learning the fundamentals. I see this with triggers all the time. Someone buys a race gun with a 2-pound trigger because you'll grow into it. Then they're accidentally firing rounds at the range because the trigger's so light they sneeze and it goes off. Yeah, that's real safe. Or someone buys a lightweight .357 Magnum revolver because you'll grow into the recoil. That's like telling someone who's never driven to start with a Formula 1 car. Don't worry, you'll grow into it. No, they won't. They'll crash into a wall and never drive again. You don't grow into guns that are above your skill level. You just suffer unnecessarily and build bad habits that you have to unlearn later. Start with something appropriate for where you're at right now. Build fundamentals, get comfortable, and then upgrade to more advanced stuff once you got the basics down solid. A beginner should start with a full-size 9mm with a decent trigger and manageable recoil, not a subcompact 40 caliber with a 10-pound trigger and a grip like holding a cactus. You'll progress faster, enjoy shooting more, and actually get better instead of just fighting your gun and questioning your life choices. You'll grow into it is advice for people who want to sound tough but don't actually care about if you succeed or not. They just want to feel superior. Ignore them. Buy what fits your skill level right now. Reliability is all that matters. Might sound logical on the surface, but here's what they're not telling you. A gun that runs forever but shoots terribly still sucks to own. Cool, enjoy hating every trigger pull forever and never wanting to go to the range. What a great investment. Reliability here is critical. If your gun doesn't go bang when you need it to, nothing else matters. I'm not arguing that. But reliability isn't the only thing that matters. It's the baseline, not the finish line. If your gun's reliable but it's got a terrible trigger, awful ergonomics, and feels like garbage to shoot, you're not going to want to practice with it. If you don't practice, reliability didn't matter because you can't hit the broadside of a barn from inside the barn. I always think the Glock 19 is an ultimate example here. It's the most reliable gun on the planet. It always works. Drop it in mud, freeze it, run it over with your truck, it'll still fire. But the stock trigger is mediocre at best. The grip angle is weird for some people, including me, and it's got zero soul. It's a block of plastic that works. That's it. Now for a lot of folks, shooting a Glock is about as exciting as doing Texas. It's reliable, sure, but it's boring and uninspiring. If you don't enjoy shooting your gun, you're not going to train with it. A CZ75 might be slightly less reliable than a Glock, though honestly CZs are pretty dang reliable, but if it fits your hand better, has a smoother trigger, and makes you excited to go to the range, it's a better choice for you, because you'll actually use it. Reliability is a baseline requirement. But you also need a gun that you enjoy shooting, that fits your hand, and you'll actually go practice with. Don't let reliability zealots convince you that nothing else matters. A reliable gun you hate is still a bad gun for you. Sometimes good enough reliability plus great shootability beats perfect reliability plus terrible everything else. More recoil means more power. It's the battle cry of insecure dudes who think pain equals performance, and it is nonsense. Pain is not a ballistic coefficient, bro. It's not a measurable unit of effectiveness. Also, not all guns are created equal, and physics don't care about your feelings. Here's a reality. Recoil is a function of bullet weight, powder charge, and gun weight, but it has nothing to do with how effective the cartridge actually is. A lightweight .357 Magnum snub nose has brutal recoil that'll make your hand go numb, but the actual bullet performance is the same as a heavier .357 with softer recoil. You know what that means? You're just suffering more for no reason. It's masochism disguised as machismo. More recoil doesn't make you tougher, doesn't make your bullets deadlier, and it doesn't impress anyone except other insecure dudes who also think pain is a personality trait. What it does do is make you slower on follow-up shots, more likely to flinch, and less likely to practice. A 9mm with good hollow points is just as effective as a .45 ACP in real-world scenarios, but it's got less recoil, higher capacity, and faster follow-ups. Now, the .45 guys act like recoil equals power, but really they're just making shooting harder for themselves for zero benefit. Like putting rocks in your shoes and bragging about how tough your feet are. Yeah, okay, buddy. The worst part? Excessive recoil punishes you worse if your fundamentals ain't solid. A new shooter with a lightweight .44 Magnum's gonna develop a flinch immediately and never learn proper trigger control. An experienced shooter with the same gun will manage it better, but they'd still shoot better and faster with something softer. Stop glorifying recoil like it's a badge of honor, because it's not. It's just physics working against you, and you're paying money for the privilege of making your life harder. Shoot what you can control. Hit your target, ignore the ego-driven nonsense about real power. That's just people trying to feel superior about their poor equipment choices. Shorter is always better is internet CQB fantasy logic, and what they don't tell you is that you traded velocity and comfort for internet cool points. Nothing says performance like flash, noise, and immediate regret the first time you shoot it indoors. Short barrel rifles and pistols look cool, I'll give them that. They're compact, they're hardy, and they fit the tactical aesthetic perfectly. You look like an operator. But they come with serious trade-offs that the internet conveniently forgets to mention when they're busy admiring themselves in the mirror. Shorter barrels means lower velocity, which means less energy on target and worse ballistics. Basic physics. They also mean more muzzle blast, more flash, and more concussion. But hey, you look cool on Instagram, so I guess that's worth it, maybe? Same thing with micro AKs, short barrel shotguns, and snub-nose revolvers. They're compact, which is genuinely useful in some situations. But they're also harder to shoot accurately, have worse ballistics, and are way less pleasant to use. Short barrels have their place. If you need the compactness for a specific reason, like vehicle operations or deep concealed carry, then yes, go short. But don't just assume shorter is automatically better because some tactical influencer said so. It's a trade-off. You sacrifice performance for aesthetics, and now you're dealing with the consequences every time you shoot. Think about what you actually need instead of what looks cool in photos. Your ears will thank you. One gun can do everything. Is advice from people who don't want to admit that compromises exist, physics is real, and wishing doesn't make things true. General purpose guns are fine, I own several, but pretending there are no trade-offs is a lie, and the truth is simple. Your do-everything gun does everything poorly. The internet loves the idea of the one-gun solution, an AR-15 that can hunt, compete, defend your home, and probably file your taxes if you ask it nice enough. And yeah, general purpose AR can do a lot of things, it's versatile, but it doesn't do any one thing as well as a specialized gun built specifically for that purpose. Your 16-inch general purpose AR can hunt, but a dedicated hunting rifle with a longer barrel and better optic will be more accurate and have better ballistics. It can compete, but a race gun will be faster, lighter, and more precise. It can defend your home, but a shorter SBR or PCC will be way more maneuverable in hallways. A do-everything gun is a compromise. You're sacrificing specialization for versatility, and that's okay if you understand the trade-off that you're making and you choose deliberately. But the good old internet acts like one gun can truly excel at everything. That's a fantasy. If you only have the budget for one gun, a general purpose AR or a Glock 19 is a solid choice. I'm not going to argue that. But if you can't afford multiple guns, specialize them for specific tasks. You'll get better performance and way more enjoyment out of guns that are actually optimized for what you're doing. I'm saying a hunting rifle for hunting, competition gun for competition, a home defense gun for home defense. Stop chasing the unicorn that don't exist. Accept that one gun can't do everything at the highest level. Plan accordingly. Or just keep pretending and wondering why you're not as good as the guys with specialized gear. Lightweight is always better. Sounds smart on the surface, right? Who doesn't want a lighter gun? Easier to carry, less fatigue, sounds great. But it ignores one fundamental fact. Lighter guns recoil more and punish bad fundamentals, till physics shows up uninvited to ruin your day. Weight absorbs recoil. A heavier gun's gonna have softer recoil than a lighter gun in the same caliber, all else being equal. This is just physics, Newton's laws. You can't argue with them. I mean, I guess you can, but physics doesn't care and you will lose. Those ultra-light scandium frame revolvers, they're light, which is fantastic for carry, but man, they kick like an angry mule with a grudge when you actually shoot them. A full-size steel revolver in the same caliber will have way softer recoil and be way more pleasant to shoot. Lightweight ARs are similar. You built a lightweight setup with a pencil barrel, a skeletonized stock, and titanium everything, and now it weighs 5 pounds and you're real proud of yourself. Yeah, cool. But it's also got more felt recoil and more muzzle movement than a standard 7-pound AR, which makes it objectively harder to shoot accurately and control. Lightweight guns are great if you're carrying them all day and rarely shooting them, like a backup gun or a hiking rifle for carrying miles. But for range guns, home defense guns, or comp guns, weight is your friend. It helps with recoil management and makes the gun more stable and easier to control. Don't just chase lightweight because it sounds better or because some influencer's showing off their ultralight build. Think about what you're actually using the gun for and whether weight is going to help or hurt your performance. Sometimes heavier is better. The internet won't tell you that because they're too busy chasing trends and trying to look cool. Expensive means higher quality. That's advice that sometimes is true and sometimes is just copium from people who overpaid and now they need to justify it to themselves and everybody around them. Sometimes you're buying precision machining with genuinely better materials. Sometimes you're just buying vibes, a logo, and bragging rights. The internet acts like price always equals performance, and that's just not true. Yeah, $3,000 custom 1911 is probably going to have tighter tolerances and better fit and finish than a $500 Rock Island. That's real, but is it 6 times better? No, not even close. You're paying for hand-fitting, premium materials, exclusivity, and the ability to tell people at the range how much you spent. That's cool if you want it and you can afford it, but it's not making you shoot 6 times better. Gucci ARs are the same way. You spent $2,500 on a billet receiver, a fancy handguard, and a custom Cerakote job that looks like a sunset. It looks amazing. Your Instagram posts get a ton of likes, I'm sure. But does it shoot better than a $900 Aero Precision build? Well, not really. You paid for aesthetics and brand name, and that's fine, just be honest about it. Sometimes expensive does mean higher quality. A Nighthawk 1911 is legitimately better than a Kimber. A Schmidt and Bender scope is legitimately better than a budget red dot from Amazon. But sometimes expensive just means you're paying for marketing, hype, exclusivity, or limited production runs. You gotta learn to tell the difference. Don't assume price equals performance, and don't let expensive gun owners shame you for buying budget options that work just fine. Sometimes you're buying precision, sometimes you're buying coping and a sense of superiority, so you gotta know which one you're getting before you swipe that card. If you don't like it, you just suck is the official motto of bad design, and it's the laziest possible response to a legitimate criticism. Some guns are genuinely unpleasant to shoot, and that's not a skill issue, that's a gun issue. But people don't want to admit their favorite gun might have flaws, so they attack you instead. I see this all the time with bullpups. Someone buys a bullpup rifle, shoots it, and goes, "Man, this trigger is terrible and the ergonomics are weird." Immediately, some keyboard warrior shows up. "You just don't know how to shoot it. Get good, scrub." No, the trigger is terrible. That's a known issue with bullpups. The trigger linkage is long and mushy because it's connected to the firing mechanism that's way behind your hand. That ain't a skill issue, that's a design compromise that's inherent to the platform. Same thing with snappy micro compacts. A new shooter buys a micro 9mm, can't control it well, and someone tells him, "You just suck at shooting." No, the gun's got short sight radius, aggressive recoil for its size, and a tiny grip that doesn't give you much to hold on to. It's objectively harder to shoot well than a full-size gun. Neither of those are the shooter's fault. That's the gun's characteristics. So yes, skill matters, obviously. And yes, training helps. I'm not denying those things, but some guns are objectively less pleasant to shoot than others. And dismissing that as "you just suck" is ignorant, unhelpful, and frankly just kind of mean. If a gun doesn't fit your hand, has excessive recoil for your strength level, or just feels bad to you, that's valid feedback. Don't let the internet tough guys gaslight you into thinking you're the problem when the gun genuinely has issues. Sometimes the gun is just bad for you specifically, and that is okay. Find something that works better for your body and your needs, and ignore the haters who think that dismissing your concerns makes them sound experienced. Real shooters use iron sights. That's FUD logic from people stuck in 1987, and it is dumb. Optics exist because they work, and pretending otherwise is just nostalgia and resistance to change. Real shooters also used horses at one point, and look, technology still won that battle. Red dots, holographic sights, and LPVOs are objectively better than iron sights in almost every measurable way. They're faster to acquire sight picture, easier to use in low light or no light, more forgiving of eye alignment and head position. They let you keep both eyes open. The only advantage of iron sights is that they don't require batteries. And even that's not a huge deal anymore because modern optics have battery lives measured in years. Some have solar panels. The people who say real shooters use iron sights are the same people who refuse to adapt to new technology because they're emotionally attached to the old ways. And that's fine for them. If you prefer iron sights, use them. I'm not going to stop you, but don't act like people who use optics are lesser shooters or taking shortcuts or they're not real shooters. They're not. They're just using better tools. The military uses optics now, competition shooters use optics, even traditionalists and old school guys are starting to admit that red dots on pistols are objectively better for most people in most situations. Use what works for you, not what makes you feel like a purist or lets you gatekeep other shooters. Technology exists for a reason. Embrace it or don't, but stop acting like people who do are somehow cheating or inferior. They're just smarter than you. That gun has a proven track record. Sounds really convincing until you stop and ask, proven where? And for who? Context always matters. But the internet conveniently forgets that part. Proven by people nothing like you doing things you'll never do in situations you'll never be in. A gun being proven in military service doesn't automatically mean it's proven for you as a civilian. The M9 Beretta was proven in military service for decades, but it's heavy and bulky for civilians to conceal carry. Soldiers weren't appendix carrying it under a t-shirt at Costco. The SCAR has been proven by special forces operating in harsh environments worldwide, but you ain't kicking doors in Afghanistan. You're shooting paper targets at a public range on a Saturday morning, so yeah, you can get another gun for the third of the price. Again, a proven track record's only relevant if the context matches your actual gun use case here. A gun proven for duty use by cops who carry it in a 3-level retention holster on their belt might not be proven for appendix carry by civilians in gym shorts. A gun proven for military use in extreme environments might be overkill for someone who just wants a fun range toy and lives in suburban Texas. Stop talking proven track record here about like it's a gospel truth and start asking the follow-up questions. Proven for what? In what context? By who? Doing what? If it's proven in situations similar to yours, great, that's relevant. If it's proven in completely different contexts with completely different requirements, it doesn't matter to you at all. The internet loves to throw around proven track record without any context whatsoever, and that's lazy logic that doesn't actually help anybody make good, informed decisions. You don't need comfort, just toughness. It's macho nonsense. It sounds motivational in a tough guy kind of way, but it's actually pretty counterproductive. Discomfort doesn't make you serious or dedicated, it makes you shoot less. Cool mindset, bro, real inspirational. Enjoy never practicing because your gun sucks to use. If your gun's uncomfortable to shoot or even to carry, talking bad grip, excessive recoil, awkward ergonomics, sharp edges digging into you, you're not gonna want to shoot or carry it. And if you don't want to shoot or carry it, what's the point in owning it? Just tough it out doesn't make you a better shooter. It makes you someone who avoids the range and makes excuses. I see this with carry guns all the time. Someone buys a tiny, uncomfortable gun with a grip like holding a cheese grater because you just gotta be tough and deal with it. Then they never carry it because it digs into their side and it hurts. Or they never practice with it because it's genuinely unpleasant to shoot. A comfortable gun you'll actually carry every day and practice with regularly is infinitely better than an uncomfortable gun that sits in your safe collecting dust. Toughness has its place. I'm not saying you should be a baby about every little thing, but comfort matters too. And pretending it doesn't is just machismo disguised as advice. A gun that fits in your hand properly, has manageable recoil, feels good to shoot, is gonna make you a better shooter because you'll actually use it. You'll train more, you'll carry it more, you'll be more confident with it. So stop pretending discomfort is a virtue or a sign of dedication. It's not. Just an excuse for bad equipment choices and stubbornness. Find a gun that's comfy and effective for your needs, and you'll shoot more, practice more, carry more, and get way better. Toughness doesn't replace good fit, proper ergonomics. It just makes you suffer unnecessarily while pretending it's character building. Everyone should start with the same gun is advice that ignores the most basic, obvious fact about humans. I don't know if you know this, but no, lean in. We're all different. Hand size, recoil tolerance, strength, and goals make a one-size-fits-all recommendation completely impossible. Yeah, because humans famously have all the exact same hands, right? We're all identical clones. Wrong. The internet loves to recommend the Glock 19 as a universal first gun for literally everybody. Just get a Glock 19. And yeah, the Glock 19 is a solid, reliable, versatile gun. I recommended it earlier, but listen, I'm not here to argue that. I'm just saying it doesn't fit everybody. Someone with small hands might struggle with the grip size and can't reach the controls properly. Someone sensitive to recoil might prefer a heavier gun with more weight to absorb it. Someone with specific goals like competition shooting or hunting might need something completely different from the start. A 6'4" dude with bare paw hands is going to have completely different needs than a 5'2" woman with small hands. Pretending they should both start with the exact same gun is dumb and unhelpful. People have different hand sizes, different strength levels, different budgets, different intended uses, different goals. A universal recommendation ignores all of that important context. The best first gun is the one that fits your hand, that you can control comfortably, and that matches your specific goals and intended use. For some people, that is a Glock 19. For others, it's a CZ, a Walther, a SIG, a revolver, even a .22 pistol to build fundamentals first. Stop giving one-size-fits-all advice like you're handing out participation trophies and start actually asking people what they need based on their unique situation. We're not all the same, and pretending we are is lazy advice that doesn't help anybody and might actually steer people wrong. Think about the person, not just a gun. But that's a list, folks. Drop a comment and let me know what bad gun advice you believe before you learn maybe better the hard way. We've all been there. If you enjoyed this reality check, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and don't worry, I'll get to roasting. Till next time.